Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the Andzen Approach. My name's Jason, director at Andzen, and today I'm joined by Anthony, CEO and founder of Enavi.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
And as usual, I'm also joined by Brendan, founder of Andzen.
Thank you, Jason. Anthony, great to have you. We are still in Austin, Texas, but it feels like we've been hanging out all month.
Seriously.
With you. So we caught up in Shop Talk or in Vegas for Shop Talk.
Yeah.
Then we all headed over to Arizona
Yeah.
for a brand retreat in the desert,
good
which
time.
was
That was
fabulous.
amazing, yeah.
And now we're back here in Austin for Rachel Jacobs' event.
Too much barbecue.
Too much
Yeah.
barbecue, lots of fun drinks.
Yeah. Lots of spicy mugs. Actually, Arizona as well. To hear.
But let's dive in to all things CRO and CRO agency.
Yeah, I'm keen. Maybe, Anthony, if you could take us through. We haven't had a specialist agency like yours on the pod, obviously, other than ourselves hosting it every month. But we're particularly interested in what you guys do in CRO because it is obviously such an important niche aspect of managing your brand. I was very fortunate in Arizona to get to watch you do a workshop, and I was really impressed by how you were able to break down what it's like, feels like a kind of ethereal, maybe like touchy-feely, but like not necessarily hard to pin down the data behind it. And you did a really great job of breaking down, like, here's how you can actually look at the analytics to diagnose these problems and then measure success. So I'm keen for you to maybe just spend a little bit of time talking about, you know, how you view CRO and where you guys fit into that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So at Enavi, we call our approach to CRO human obsessed CRO. And the idea behind human obsessed is ultimately with conversion rate optimization, the intention is to influence a human to take an action. That's at the core of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so that action could be a purchase, could be, multiple more items into their cart, higher average order value, could be subscription opt-ins. There's a variety of different, actions that you could be influencing.
Yeah.
But it's the process that helps you understand, why does the human do it? Why do they not do it? And then how do we ultimately influence them to do more of what we're trying to do? And so that's at the core of our human obsessed approach. And so it's hard because conversion rate optimization oftentimes gets boxed into just influencing conversion rates.
Yeah.
We're only focusing on conversion rates. But we never look at conversion rate really. It's ultimately kind of a vanity metric. Doesn't tell you a whole lot. And so we like to go deeper than that and look at what we call the inter-site funnel. And so that's core to our approach. And so it's the 4 key steps that lead to a conversion. And so when you're looking at kind of a traditional e-commerce purchase journey, landing to product view to add to cart to checkout to purchase. Those are the 4 key metrics. And then within those, we're kind of segmenting down: device, landing page, channel. You can look at new versus returning. You can look at country. There's so many ways you can kind of get surgical and layer data points on top of data points to understand, okay, we've got, 50% of our traffic is landing on the homepage coming from, let's say organic search. And so that can give you some context and say, okay, we've got 50% there, but only 20% of those are advancing to view a product. We would consider that a problem. We have targets across each of those 4 metrics, and the target for landing to product view is 50%.
Okay.
And so 50% of your homepage traffic should be reaching a product.
Yeah.
Whether that's through the navigation to a collection or directly through the navigation to a collection or your homepage hero to a product, they're viewing a product page. And so that is usually the angle at which we're using to kind of understand where your problems are. And that's usually what we're looking at from a KPI standpoint, instead of conversion rate, going layers deeper to really say, okay, it's this segment. There's quite a bit of traffic here. This is your biggest opportunity, what we would call your metric on fire. And fire as in bad. This is not a good fire. This is a bad fire. You need to fix this.
Not lit.
It's not lit.
It's not lit at all. No, if you don't fix this, it's going to sabotage your growth kind of fire.
Okay.
Sorry to jump in. Do you have many of your customers asking for, I guess, a specific journey, like wanting to hit certain points or view certain pieces of information to get to product page or get to checkout to increase, I guess, the likelihood of conversion?
I think there's certain opportunities or problems that we're trying to solve for. I wouldn't say there's not really brands coming in and saying, we need the user to view this collection. Oftentimes it's like, we know that when a user purchases across, a customer purchases across multiple categories, they're more sticky.
Yeah.
And so like, how can we make that happen?
Yeah.
And so like oftentimes with like apparel, it can work well, like driving to a collection page instead of a product page.
Yeah.
It's all dependent on the brand and the product and stuff like that. But sometimes that can work well. Your meta ads are driving to a collection instead of a PDP.
Yeah.
They're seeing more products. It can increase the likelihood that they buy multiple, or they buy across multiple categories, which is always a win for LTV typically. So there would be like cases like that where we're using data points to understand the customer and ultimately the behaviors that we're trying to influence, because that's an opportunity. We see that as an opportunity.
Of course.
Yeah.
So for us, I guess, particularly with the nurture series, right, like we will get an email address through a pop-up data capture form. And our job is to tell the brand story, and with, discounts possibly to get that first purchase. But a lot of the time it's actually taking them on a journey of like, this is the brand and this is what it means and this is the quality. Let's get you back to the site.
Yeah.
Do you see, in terms of the channel, you guys have like, are you looking for different benchmarks for traffic? Maybe that's coming from social versus organic versus email, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely trends. In terms of our benchmarks, at this point, we look at them kind of globally.
Okay.
But there is definitely trends. So like, brands that drive, any of your meta traffic, typically before brands start working with us, I mean, even in general, as they scale with us, are converting like half. They're advancing from each metric at like half of the average.
Okay.
You have your more like higher intent paid channels like paid search or branded search. Like those are going to advance, at a much higher rate than.
Of course, they should be more engaged.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then email typically performs better. Organic is, it's usually like paid social, paid search, organic direct, email.
Yeah.
Sometimes direct, depending on the brand, can be a lot of like viral stuff, and so that could be even performing worse than paid search.
Wow.
But we still kind of strive for the same targets, because the best brands that we see, like the most mature brands, they're above the baseline across a lot of their segments. There's particular ones that are like really top of funnel that you're never going to have. 12% of those users adding to cart when they land on the PDP. They're in fact finding mode. They're not ready to buy. They're not in market. But that's kind of the approach for sure.
Nice. And are you guys, if you're working with a merchant and you're coming up with, these A/B test strategies and things like that, are you predominantly relying on technologies that can help you do that A/B testing on site, or are you guys manually kind of building out the dev on this and testing? Like, what's the approach there?
Yeah, I mean, so we use A/B testing tools. Cool. In our case, we're predominantly using Convert. It allows us to run pretty robust A/B testing campaigns and move at a really fast velocity. And so that's kind of the approach there. Every single test that we run is traditionally through that. Now, there's other tools like Vermont you could leverage for more landing page or like funnel experiences that are more personalized and isolated from the onsite. But if we're testing the traditional onsite, we're leveraging an A/B testing tool for sure.
Yeah, cool. And then when it comes to kind of that site personalization, are you looking at tools there? Like we've had Nosto on the pod before, for example. Rebuy is another one. Like are those tools that you're recommending as well, or are you more focused on maybe like the creative, the design of those pages, the structure of the collections pages?
Yeah, I mean, so there's definitely Rebuy is very commonly leveraged by a lot of the brands we work with. Same thing with Nosto. There's others. When it comes to our efforts, oftentimes, and honestly in general, most brands aren't quite there from a maturity standpoint to really invest heavily in the personalization stuff to really move the needle. There's foundational issues that they need to correct first.
Yeah.
And then you move over to the higher order things. So that's kind of our approach. It's like, we need to get your intrasite funnel right.
Yeah.
And then we can move on to, okay, how can we increase average order value? There's obviously cases where it's like, in order to really get your paid right, we need to increase your average order value. Like you can't scale with, your current CAC, and you need to get first order profitable based off of your category, and we'll solve for those types of problems. But traditionally it's pretty focused on like, you got to get your intrasite funnel right, get you foundationally well. And then, sometimes 6 months to a year in, we're then moving on to those like higher order things, average order value, personalization.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's interesting listening to you talk through it, because I think everything that you've said makes a lot of sense when tying back to saying that while conversion rate optimization is the skill, right, of CRO, the reality is that you actually, if you just get all these other things right, the conversion rate will take care of itself. Like, you're not sitting there and looking at the conversion rate specifically. It's these other pieces in the funnel. And I think thinking about, well, what is the average order value? Like, what is the cross category? Like, how are we doing these things that are, further in the weeds in terms of metrics that can be measured, but they're the actual ones that allow you to scale your social and invest more across the business and things.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many metrics that kind of play into that. And that kind of brought up a thought for me when it comes to the metrics that we look at. Oftentimes we're looking primarily at like lagging indicators.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's these leading indicators that can be leveraged to understand that lagging indicator. But so much of the focus is on these lagging indicators. Those are what fill up like the daily, those are the metrics that are monitored daily.
Yeah.
But we could pivot and shift towards, okay, well, let's look at, for instance, if you're looking at conversion rate, and you could look at the intrasite funnel and use that as a leading indicator for, are we going to be like
on track?
Are we, for paid social, like we're driving them to the PDP, are they adding to cart kind of at our target rate?
Yeah.
And that's going to tell you traditionally, like, how well are they going to do downstream? Obviously you might have issues where they're adding to cart, there's high abandonment, and that becomes an issue. But those leading indicators can be far more informative than like looking at conversion rate or looking at average order value. Like there's a leading indicator to tie with that for sure.
Yeah, great. We had a little bit of, we were both hosting a roundtable yesterday, and we had a healthy conversation about pop-ups.
Debate.
About pop-ups, their efficacy, the need for them, and I guess in the context of our two agencies, who should be responsible for them?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yeah, I think I
think you guys actually asked that first.
Yeah, sure. I'm really interested, I think, in your perspective, because when it came up, it never really occurred to me that anyone other than us should be responsible for pop-ups. But I think as we got into the conversation, I could tell that you thought the same thing, that obviously the CRO agency should be responsible for that piece. I'm really interested in the strategies that you guys have seen around pop-ups. We've talked a little bit about this, but I'm interested to get your perspective, and then we can give our perspective and kind of drill into this a bit on what's really effective.
Yeah, no, it's a very political area.
Yeah.
Because, the reality is it influences email just as much as it influences the on-site experience.
Of course.
And conversion rate. And oftentimes it's just kind of just thrown up there and not really thought about. There's not a lot of testing around it. And there's this high value for the email at the cost of what, And so when we're talking about actual ownership of it, I think it's the responsibility of whoever's owning the on-site experience.
Yeah.
Now there has to be really strong collaboration with email, because if there isn't cohesive messaging between, what's happening in that pop-up, what's the offer there, and it's not carried over to the welcome series, or however you're leveraging pop-ups, if that's not, cohesive across the customer journey, it's and that's not like, that's very we see that very often, that brands are super siloed. So there oftentimes can be big disconnects.
Yeah.
Between paid social and the post-click experience.
Yes.
Between email and, CRO is like, well, these are the things that are friction points and that are ultimately the reasons why users are abandoning cart.
Yep.
We're going to really, focus on these, whether that's on the product page or on the cart page, but then that's never communicated to email.
Yeah.
And so email's got this abandoned cart series and they're not talking the same language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's just so normal.
Yeah.
So that's where there has to be a lot of collaboration when it comes to pop-ups. But I definitely think if it's the on-site experience, it should be owned by a single person or a single team. And there has to be collaboration there. There has to be testing.
Yeah.
When it comes to actual approach to email pop-ups, it really depends. I think there's a lot to think about with it, right? So you've got targeting, where are you actually, who's actually seeing it, on what pages are they seeing it? You have the actual timing.
Yeah.
Is it based off of how far they scrolled, or is it based off of how long they've been on the site?
Yeah.
Or is it the second page that they go to? There's a variety of different ways to tackle it. Then you also have the UI of it and the UX of it. Is it full page, or is it smaller? Is it
fly out, or is it a drop down bar, or exactly.
Or is it do you have a kind of a micro conversion at the beginning, to get them, do you want 15% off? Yes or no?
Yeah.
There's so many different things that you could be doing. Do you force them to put in their SMS after they put an email?
Yeah.
Do you have the discount code at the end? Or do you throw it in the email and you pull them off site?
Yeah.
There's so many different things to think about with it. And I think there has to be strong collaboration, because if CRO is doing it, they're going to want to just put the discount code at the end of the pop-up.
Yeah.
But email could say, well, actually, we see some issues there with, abuse.
Yeah, abuse.
There's discount code abuse, and the percentage of discount codes that get used is heavily inflated, and we've got, users just making up emails.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was we were talking about that yesterday, and that's our biggest concern, and we see it a lot, particularly in fashion or fast-moving brands like that, where people are hunting for those discounts, right? And shoppers are savvy these days. And what we're finding, particularly as our own agency evolves, is we're very concerned with the quality of the data that Klaviyo is now bringing in. And if we have customers who have shopped 3 times with a brand using 3 different email addresses, we're going to have really incorrect data about LTV, purchase rates, hero products. There's so many things that can be affected, that can affect our strategies for what the second or third purchase, the strategy around the automation there, the products that are being recommended. And if we have a pop-up at the beginning that's incentivizing consumers to put any old email address in there so that they can get a 10% off on every order, and they realize that they're able to do that, the compounding negative impacts on those strategies later on can actually be really bad, particularly at scale. But you're right, at the end of the day, that there has to be a balance. I think it was one of the very interesting things we had when we had Alia on the pod. They were saying that they have, in their opinion, the A/B testing, the way they manage A/B testing is one of the most important parts of their product.
Yeah. And
they have a real emphasis on the conversion rate for subscribers and the conversion rate at checkout. And they will if you run a split test, they'll kind of automate how much traffic is going into each test based on performance. And if they see a really high subscription rate but a low checkout conversion rate, they'll deprioritize that version, because the subscriber metric is the vanity metric, right? You need the conversion, not just the subscriber.
Yeah, and I mean, back to the original question, I guess, why we traditionally see it as our space is, coming from a point where a dev agency has just set up an inline form, or just set up a pop-up, or just installed a platform, or, the internal team have set it up, and, they've just set some basic options, and, you get an immediate 10% as soon as you hit the site, and it covers up everything. So we take ownership in basically for all the reasons you just outlined is how we treat it internally, with time, with second page, what's the intent, and actually, like it says on the box, what is the customer journey of a first-time visitor to a repeat visitor? Like the messaging needs to be different. So I think based on this, we're the same, right? So I personally would feel comfortable with Anthony from Enavi looking after pop-ups. But we'll see for anyone else.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I don't want to be Switzerland on this, but I think like you make a good point. At the end of the day, I think for the same reasons that you want to is the same reason that we would want to. We're thinking beyond. What's the timing? What type of pop-up should they see if they're on a product page or versus a content focus page? Yep. What if they initially close the pop-up out? How could they re-engage with that pop-up? Is there some sort of widget that would allow them to bring it back up? What if they close out and then they go to exit the site? Are we doing anything to capture their attention before we lose that traffic?
Right.
But I think those are all the same things that you would be considering.
Yeah. No, 100%. And notice I said a CRO agency. Dev has a little bit of a different kind of view on pop-ups than like a CRO approach would be. Yeah. And so that's where, if you're really looking at on-site performance from conversion rate is the word I'll use, but that's not traditionally what we're always looking at. That is going to give you a perspective where you're really trying to make sure that email is getting what they need. Yep. And users are not bouncing because they're coming from Meta, and then all of a sudden they've got this disruptive pop-up after they click to go to the product page, and it's just boom right in their face, not what they anticipated, and they're like, ooh, I'll click that that X, and boom, I'm back into my doom scroll.
So I want to get into some actual client examples, but first a little word from our sponsor.
Founded in 2012, Klaviyo is the only CRM built for B2C brands. Powered by our built-in Klaviyo data platform and AI insights, Klaviyo combines marketing automation, analytics, and customer service into one unified solution, making it easy for businesses to know their customers and grow faster. Klaviyo helps relationship-driven brands of all sizes deliver one-to-one experiences at scale, improve efficiency, and drive revenue. Chat to the team at Andzen or visit andzen.co/KLAVIYO to find out more and get started.
And we're back. As usual, please go to andzen.co/podcast. You can see the YouTube version of this one. You can also see all of our past episodes, liking and subscribing, Instagram, TikTok, the whole deal. There's also a Klaviyo form there. If you put your details in, we can send you newsletters, we can send you updates, we can send you offers, and let you know when all the next episodes come out. But before the break, we were going to talk about some client examples. Anthony, I assume you've got a bunch.
Yeah, so the one that really came to mind was it's a recent one because I was taking a look at their numbers this last week. We've been working with this client for about a year. They sell frames for the Samsung TV. Nice. And they're like the leading manufacturer for it. And so when we started with them, foundationally, they had some issues from a functionality standpoint, from an accessibility standpoint, from a usability standpoint. That needed to be addressed with their site. And so there was a mix of like just do it's and some testing that we did. Like they had some like AR where you could view the actual TV frame on your wall. And they were investing a lot into that software. And so we ended up negative testing that, and it was actually not providing any conversion lift. I can't remember the exact results of that, but from a business decision, it didn't pay for itself. And so they ended up removing that. And so there was a lot of complexity to their issues. I mean, they sell like a $300 product, and so it's definitely not a $30 mascara.
It's a very considered spend.
There's definitely some thought that goes into it. They even have some more expensive ones too that are like gold plated or whatever. Wow. They don't move a lot of those ones, but they do exist. And so they're like driving traffic to collection pages. And so they had a product discovery issue. We got to get more users viewing products, finding the right product. And so having to address that. But then once the users were getting to the product pages, they were adding to cart at very low rates. And since then, like pretty much across every single segment, across like all of their metrics, their performance has pretty much doubled.
Oh, wow.
And that's like that's very rare. Like this is not normal. I mean, we've worked with them for a year. We can't take credit for all of that. The reality is like there were some foundational issues that we fixed that made a significant improvement. There are some that human obsessed side. We're really understanding those motivators, those friction points, updating their messaging, updating their copy, updating their product discovery in a way that helps users find the product that's right for them based off the style they're looking for. What are those things that they're thinking about? Why do they choose one frame versus another frame? And then there's still more opportunity with them. Like it doesn't stop there. Like because they're growing, their catalog's expanding, they're driving more and more traffic. They're like have a partnership with Samsung now, and Samsung's had them as like the leading or like the preferred option or whatever. And so there's just so much opportunity to continue to improve, because even from a baseline standpoint, they're not quite there on most metrics. Like their product viewed add to cart rates like 8.5%. The target's 12%.
Wow.
And so they still have room, but they started at like 4%. And like their meta traffic has doubled in performance. And so it's been cool to see that, because 2024 wasn't an easy year for every brand. And at that price point, to be able to have that, that significant of an improvement is really cool. And so we can't take credit for all of it. There's definitely some things that they've done on the marketing front that have helped support in that, but there's definitely a lot of that CRO that has ultimately impacted the way their intra-site funnel has improved over the last year.
Nice. Are you ever done with CRO? Like, you ever reach a point where you're like, all right, well, I don't think there's anything else we can optimize here. Perfect.
Yeah. I mean, if brands kind of were in a isolated box that was not affected by the markets, by competitors, if they weren't growing and adding products and trying to target colder and new audiences, if there wasn't all of these things that were outside of their control that were affecting stuff. I mean, the reality is e-commerce is a moving target. It's constantly shifting and changing. And so the minute you feel like you're planted, there's something that's coming in and disrupting what you're doing.
Tariffs.
Yeah, exactly. And so your site is never optimized. Like the idea of a site being optimized is mostly out of a misconception of what it truly means to be optimized. There's always room for improvement. And whether you're declining or whether you're growing, there's definitely things that you should be doing to ultimately produce long-term sustainable growth through CRO. If you're just looking at it conversion rate, sure, you can get the idea that, we've got a great conversion rate, 3%. But if that's the case, you're probably not driving enough cold traffic. The minute you start driving that cold traffic, your conversion rate's going down. Was your site optimized? Not for that traffic. So
we see exactly the same for customer journey or CRM or retention, whatever you want to call it. There's always campaigns to be done. There's always flow optimizations to be done. There's always new and interesting flows that we can add. There's economic, conditions that change things. But I guess just also the app landscape too. Like there's a lot happening in software. There's a lot of consolidation. There's a lot of optimization that can be made. I don't think we're ever done.
No, definitely not. But I think, you talk about that. There's a point where you get to segmentation, right? And so it's the same thing in email. Like we might say, okay, your abandoned cart flow, because Klaviyo has those benchmark metrics, we've got clients that are in the 95th percentile of performance, right, in their category. And so they're already killing it and doing better than anyone else. But when you drill down and you say, well, actually, what we can see is that people who are abandoning a cart that have never shopped before are still not converting at the rate of people who have, or, like there's still an extra 5 or 10% to be squeezed out of this segment of the group.
Do you go down to like categories or particular products?
At times, absolutely. So, for example, like brands that have subscriptions, like how many customers are subscribing to a single product versus a bundle product.
Right.
And like, what are we doing? Like you mentioned before, that if they're shopping cross category, they're much more sticky, right? So then what are we doing we may have a really successful post-purchase journey that is converting people into subscribers at a really good rate, but they're single product subscribers. So what are we doing to lift that subscription value so that their average subscribe time in 7 months, it's 14 months or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's always opportunities. There's always new problems.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter what you do in the e-com space, it's constantly moving.
Yeah. I'm interested in, let's say you're a merchant listening to this, you feel excited about the idea of looking at some of these indicators. What are some ways that a merchant could say, is it GA4 that they're jumping into right now and having a look at something? What are some numbers or places that they could go to just give themselves a bit of a gut check on maybe there are some of these areas that they've just been unaware of that are on fire, metrics for them?
Yeah, I mean, so if I was say an e-com director, it can be super difficult to focus.
Yeah.
Like I was in-house at one point. I wore all the hats. Yeah. Should we be focusing on average order value? Should we be, focusing on this product? Should we be focusing on this part of the funnel? Like there's a bunch of different things that you could be spending your time on.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to actually spend your time on the wrong things or spread yourself too thin and you only go an inch deep, a mile wide. And so that's where the inter-site funnel approach helps you focus. And so we have a free report that you guys will link. And so if you use that, it's literally one click. You just select the GA4 property you want to view, and it's going to populate with the inter-site funnel. So like we talked about those 4 steps that lead to conversion. Yeah. And it's going to show you at a global level how you're performing, and then it's going to segment it down by kind of the key segments that we traditionally look at. Yeah. And you can see, okay, well, mobile, we've got users landing on, we got, 70% of traffic's coming from mobile, and we're struggling landing to product view. Yeah. You can go into GA4 and go a layer deeper and understand, okay, that mobile traffic's landing on the homepage. Only, 35% are advancing to a product page. Yeah. What can we do to ultimately improve that? And so there's additional kind of data that needs to be layered on top of that and research to really understand why that's happening. Now you know where the fire's at. You got to figure out what's causing it and then ideate solutions from there. But sometimes the biggest thing is just knowing where. Yes. It's too easy to just try to jump to throwing out solutions and these new shiny toys and never actually understand the problems and understand why they're happening. Like if you could understand why that's happening, it could have an impact on the way that you're thinking about email. It could have an impact on the way that you're thinking about your meta ads.
Yeah, your merchandising, everything, right?
Exactly, because you could learn that, the reason that users are struggling here is we've got, a high percentage of like repeat customers that are landing on the homepage. They're going to the navigation, and the navigation isn't laid out in a way that's intuitive enough for them to find like a new category that they're looking for or find a previous product that they purchased before. And those learnings can be extracted and shared across all of your different marketing channels.
Yeah. And if you're too overwhelmed or you just need some help, call Enavi.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess I wanted to finish on, talking about being a niche agency, I guess, opposed to a full service agency. We just do customer journey, CRM. You guys focus on CRO. We have some really successful relationships with other agencies. I think historically, like a lot of our leads and a lot of our clients come from other agencies. I think it's really interesting when you have 2 specialist agencies working side by side, both like super passionate and experienced in what they're doing. I can already count a bunch of our clients off the back of this conversation that definitely need a CRO agency compared to, I guess, what they're doing in-house or what their dev agency is actually delivering for them.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things where, we obviously believe strongly in being specialists, right? We've been doing this for well over a decade now, so and haven't added other services. But I think some of the depth of which you're getting into, that's stuff you can only do if you're a specialist agency, right?
No. Yeah. When I was trying to do meta and email back in the day when I was freelancing and CRO, it was like, no, not a chance I could go to this depth. It was once we niched down that it was like, okay, we can really become very good at this, bring in a strategic approach that kind of shapes the way that the brand thinks about their on-site experience. They think about their customer, the value of it. And so there's so much value in being specialized as an agency. And I think like one of the things that is also, there's pros and cons to it. The con is when you're coming into an organization, if you're not full service and you're not covering multiple things, you then need to get connected with who's running email, who's running meta. If there's a bunch of SEO traffic, who's running SEO, and have try to de-silo things as much as you can because it's so siloed in organizations, even organizations where a lot of it's in-house. Their own departments are siloed, and so learnings aren't being shared. And one of the things that we've been thinking about today, actually, Chris, our head of ops, had this analogy, and I was like, this is great. It's what we're trying to do, is this idea that CRO is this like elastic band or this like rubber band of like customer knowledge and insights that kind of wraps around the whole entire e-commerce department. And so you've got your email, your marketing, your SEO, your brand, and they're all being fed customer insights that then they're leveraging to experiment, to kind of, obviously test on their end, see how they're, how that impacts, their abandoned cart flow. We just learned that this is a big friction point. Let's address this in the first email that we send for an abandoned cart. And because the reality is like most agencies that are specializing and focusing in on like meta or SEO, or I don't know if you guys do this, but I would assume you don't have time to go in and talk to customers. And that's kind of at the core of what we do. And so we've been like thinking about like CRO and being so niche down as like a way to de-silo the lack of like the disconnected, the disconnected customer journey that we see within organizations because of the siloing. And so I thought it was kind of a cool picture in what we're trying to do. And being a specialized niche agency can make that hard because you're not, maybe working with your own agency that's coming in and owning all of it. But you can also work with incredible partners that are also specialized and do really good stuff too, which allows you to go layers deeper. Because you're just doing one thing and doing it really freaking well.
And I guess that sums our agency up as well. There's been plenty of crossroads in the past where we're like, okay, we need to grow, or our clients are asking for these additional services. Do we, spin up an SEO arm? Do we spin up a PPC arm? And Jason and I just keep chatting. We're like, no, like we want to be specialized. We want to continue to build our reputation, and we want to be known globally as, the best friggin' agency doing this particular thing, and then working with other people like yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, what a way to end. Thank you so much, Anthony, for making the time. It's been a blast hanging out the last month.
Yes, for sure.
Let's make sure we keep it going.
Yeah, 100%.
Where can people find out more about Enavi, find out more about you? What do you got going on?
Yeah, so enavi.co, not com. It's too expensive. My
amen.
LinkedIn. Amen. Anthony Morgan on LinkedIn. You can also check out Sheldon Adams on LinkedIn. He's our head of growth. We both post a lot. You'll see us talking about CRO and kind of educating about that process. And we enjoy to put out a lot of content, share our secret sauce, and feel free to message us if you have questions about CRO, or you take a look at the report and you've got questions. Like, just shoot us a message. We're always happy to chat and educate.
And that report, they just hop on the website. The report will be there.
Yeah, we can give you guys a link.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description. One more time for us, andzen.co as well. Don't go to .com. It's something strange. /podcast. See you all on the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.